Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is my hope and prayer that this video is actually going to find you guys in good health. Personally, I am fine. As you can see, I'm still in the village. Hopefully, I'll be back by tomorrow. And maybe you could also let me know where you are watching this particular video from. Ladies and gentlemen, yesterday, Rigathi Gachagua met with former members of parliament from Mount Kenya region who are the founders of the Kileweke group. For those who follow the politics of this country very closely, Kileweke group was a group of individual members of parliament from the mountain who stood firmly with Uhuru Kenyatta during his last term. Most of these members of Kileweke actually lost in the last election, and it was expected that some of these guys were going to stick with Uhuru Kenyatta. So in this video, I want us to look at why Rigathi Gachagua met with this Kileweke team and what it means for Uhuru Kenyatta. Because for the record, the former members of parliament declared that they will no longer support Uhuru Kenyatta and that they are now with Rigathi Gachagua as their leader. But before we get into all those details, in case you are watching this channel for the first time, please take a second or two, click the subscribe button so that next time we produce a video like this, YouTube will automatically notify you. And to the subscribers, I want to continue thanking you guys for your continued support, because without that support, this channel cannot be where it is. And I want to thank you guys so much for those who stood with me, stood with our family. We are really grateful. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in politics, nothing happens out of mere coincidence. There must be a reason. Uhuru Kenyatta convened some NDC, Jubilee NDC the other day, and that NDC has been thwarted to an extent that Uhuru Kenyatta almost lost the party. But still the matter is still being, I think it's still in court or something like that. But why would Rigathi Gachagua then target these former members of parliament who are allied to Uhuru Kenyatta in the last regime? For me, he's doing this for several reasons. Number one, Rigathi Gachagua and William Ruto are actually laying the ground for the parallel Jubilee NDC, which is intended to counter Uhuru Kenyatta's last NDC. And I can assure you that NDC, because Kanini Kega actually announced the date, I think it will be in June, that NDC is going to be big, it's going to be huge, and it's going to be epic. It will send a strong message. Because we are talking of two Jubilees. So there's a Jubilee Uhuru Kenyatta, and then there's a Jubilee of William Ruto. This Jubilee of William Ruto is led by Kanini Kega, Sabina Chege. They consist of several members of parliament. So the question Uhuru Kenyatta will be asked, why do you claim this party when you don't have a members of parliament on your side? Former members of parliament are not on your side. The MCS, I'm sure, will be the next who will be targeted, the MCS who are elected on Jubilee ticket. So basically, they are laying the ground for that NDC, so that it will have current Jubilee members of parliament, former Jubilee members of parliament, and Uhuru Kenyatta will just be there as Uhuru Kenyatta and Kanini and Jeremiah Kioni and David Murade. So for me, that's the first objective why Rigathi Gachagua met this group. And for me, that's something which Uhuru ought to have prevented. Number two, I also tend to think that William Ruto and Rigathi Gachagua are actually preempting Uhuru Kenyatta's next move. What is Uhuru Kenyatta's next move? Uhuru Kenyatta's next move after last week's NDC is basically to try and consolidate Jubilee. So by having these members of parliament, it means they are trying to prevent him from meeting or from consolidating some of these members, former members of parliament. In fact, there's one question which most people have been asking. Why is it that Uhuru Kenyatta cannot use money to sustain these MPs, to sustain former members of parliament? Because these members of parliament are just being sustained. Ruto is now offering them that opportunity of sustenance. So for me, Uhuru wanted to have Jubilee convene the NDC, take control of Jubilee party, then use the former members of parliament, use the elders. Of course, you saw Raila Odinga meeting the elders yesterday. So generally, the move was intended to preempt Uhuru Kenyatta's next move, so that Uhuru will now not be able to reach out to these MPs because they've already gone. So for me, I don't know how Uhuru will revive Jubilee. If I were Uhuru Kenyatta, I would disband that party. Let it die. Identify a political party in the mountain. Let's say the party belonging to Wairia. Have Wairia a party leader. Support Wairia. Or even Mwangi Kiunjuri. Support Mwangi Kiunjuri. And then use that opportunity now to deal with the Kenya Kwanza. So for me, that's what these guys have done, preempting his move. Number 3, there's something which is happening. And before Uhuru Kenyatta knows it, it would be late. There are schemes to isolate Uhuru Kenyatta, especially in the mountain. If you look at Jubilee, it no longer has members of parliament. All of them are with the Ruto. It no longer has, Jubilee no longer has governors, you know. In the mountain, he had these former members of parliament. So Uhuru Kenyatta is being isolated from the people who were previously his key supporters. You know, when you talked of Kanini Kega previously, you would see Uhuru Kenyatta in Kanini Kega. When you talked of Sabina Chege, you would see Uhuru Kenyatta in Sabina Chege. When you talked of Wambungu Ngujiri, you would see Uhuru Kenyatta. And that's why in my previous videos before elections, I used to tell you that anytime you wanted to get the thinking around Uhuru Kenyatta, you just needed to follow very closely Wambungu Ngujiri. Because Wambungu Ngujiri was that guy who was elected for working with the government. You know, he was actually sponsored to parliament by Nancy Gitau. Yeah, so he would speak the thinking around Uhuru Kenyatta. Now, if these people, all these people who are talking on behalf, they would pronounce things and would conclude that Uhuru Kenyatta are being taken away from him. What does that tell you? Uhuru Kenyatta is being isolated, especially as far as Jubilee politics is concerned. So that Uhuru Kenyatta is now getting solace from outside Jubilee. We are talking of someone like Mwangi Wairia, who is not really a member of Jubilee, but now is the guy who is now standing with Uhuru Kenyatta. We are talking of someone like Maina Njenga, who is not really a member of Jubilee, but is now offering the support to Uhuru Kenyatta. Why? Because Uhuru Kenyatta is being isolated. As far as Jubilee is concerned, these guys want to ensure that by the time Uhuru Kenyatta will be claiming Jubilee, he will be Uhuru Kenyatta, Jeremiah Kioni, and David Murathe, probably with the new young leaders. But I don't think Uhuru Kenyatta should lose hope. He only needs to re-strategize for me, because Uhuru had power. He never used that power correctly. So he's now paying. But again, nothing is lost. He can still recover. But these guys are out to isolate him so that he remains Uhuru Kenyatta with Jubilee, Jeremiah Kioni, and David Murathe. And number 4, what these guys are doing is that they want to create a perception. Politics have always stated on this particular platform severally that politics is a perceptional game. What do I mean by a perceptional game? Politics is simply what people perceive. If you talk of Jubilee today and all members of parliament are with the Ruto, then former members of parliament are now with the Ruto. What comes to your mind? Do we still have Jubilee? Or if we were to claim Jubilee ownership, who then would rightly claim the ownership of Jubilee? Would that person be Jeremiah Kioni and Uhuru Kenyatta, or the former members of parliament and current members of parliament? So basically, what Rigathi, Gachagua and Ruto are trying to do is that they are creating a perception. They are adding perceptual value to their politics. That you see, in the mountain, in the last election we won, Uhuru Kenyatta delivered 1.4 million to Raila Odinga using some of these members of parliament. As we speak, most of these members of parliament, the former members of parliament, are no longer with him. They are with us. So it means their supporters are also with us. So that anybody talking about Jubilee politics will just assume that Jubilee as a political party is already dead. So for me, that's something they are doing. And lastly, I also tend to think that these guys are out to lock the mountain. They want to ensure that the mountain is completely in the grip of Rigathi Gachagua. So basically, the truth of the matter is that as we speak, Uhuru is being locked out of the mountain. It will therefore mean that Uhuru Kenyatta cannot claim to be the kingpin of the mountain, because what we are witnessing really is about the kingpin. Who is the true kingpin of the mountain? We are having Rigathi Gachagua, who is now having all the members of parliament, UDA members of parliament, Jubilee members of parliament, aspirants from Jubilee party are now with him. And then we have Uhuru Kenyatta, who is enjoying the support of a single guy called David Murathe and Jeremiah Kioni. And lastly, these guys are out to embarrass Uhuru Kenyatta. You know, Uhuru Kenyatta is a former president and is being subjected to a lot of embarrassment. For those who follow me very closely, I've always opined that Uhuru Kenyatta, even as he exited the political scene, even as he left the presidency, Uhuru Kenyatta needed to have a strong grip on Jubilee party. He needed to have members of parliament. Uhuru Kenyatta needed to have members of parliament who are allied to him, which takes me to my next analysis, the lessons which personally I think Raila Odinga and any other leader can learn from this drama we are witnessing in Jubilee and in Kenya Kwanza. Thank you guys, and may you have a good day. Bye-bye.